It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday, and this Feedback Friday, it's going to be a little truncated just because of time. But also, I said I'd talk more on Wednesday. I said I'd talk more on vengeance if there was an interest, and on the Discord, there was interest. But what I said, should this be a Manly Monday video or a Wellness Wednesday video? The answer was yes. So we're still working that out. Maybe I'll do both. I don't know. But like I said, we're still working that out. So I didn't want to throw it away. Let's do the help support this channel, and then we'll get into the rest of it, because I did see reason to revisit some content for this week too. Speaking of the Discord, now's a good time to support this channel if you want to get our monthly Discord invites. Help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. I also just started a Redbubble for It's Not Therapy stuff, but I may put up additional stuff as well. Who knows? I'm still learning it, but I'm Red Leanna K on Redbubble. It wouldn't let me change it from my main account, and I only like one. So I'll put a link in the description box so you can find it if you want some stuff. But it was interesting because when I saw the number of comments on Monday's video, I'm like, that's usually a bad sign. But this was actually a lot of people going, yeah, thank you for saying this. Thank you. One person said, I'm glad somebody's saying it's about a decade too late. There was a bunch of that. But one person said how many of them are in the tech industry, which equals money and power. And I actually read that comment. I don't mean to make fun of the commenter, but my legitimate reaction was, average rank and file programmer in the tech industry means money and power. Ha ha ha. I mean, okay, average salaries are above average, but cost of living in the cities where tech hubs congregate are off the charts. And then there's the fact that there's constant layoffs. I know a ton of engineers looking for work right now. Being in the tech industry it means okay money, but the average worker, isn't wealthy. Like, they're not rich. And power? Ooh, it's no. No. And it's one of those things that it's such a disconnect that I'm really not sure where to begin. And, I've worked in, gaming and things like that. I actually got into the mental health stuff because when I was doing games content, I ended up talking about mental health. I mean, there was that notorious article, the one article I did for Polygon that got me labeled a Polygon shill, was me pushing back on the depiction of mental health in games, because I thought there were positive depictions, there were helpful things that weren't getting cited in this overwhelmingly negative article. And the one guest article that was a pushback against existing Polygon content got me labeled a Polygon shill. Awesome. But, that was 10 years ago now. Wow. Says something, huh? Anyway, well, maybe not quite 10 years ago. I don't remember if that was 2014, 2015, but it was around there. But crunch in gaming is talked about a lot, and crunch just doesn't happen in gaming. It happens in all tech. The hours are long. The work-life balance is not great. Work from home helped with that. They actually see their families more, but of course, a lot of the tech companies are one of the ones, no, you have to be in the office, because, certain tech CEOs think that as long as you're in the office, you're working, even though what the CEO is doing while they're in the office is playing foosball, tweeting, napping on the couch and playing games on the work computer. CEOs do work, but executive time has become a euphemism for a reason, whereas the mainly guys working in tech, I wish that wasn't so, but the lack of work-life balance and the lack of job security are two big reasons women don't go into this field. Because if anybody wants kids, it's, having benefits so you can take maternity leave. I would like it to be just parental leave, and some companies offer that. A lot still don't. But, in order to have an income, after having a baby, you need benefits, which a lot of tech contracts jobs do not have. And there's no job security, even if you do have benefits. There are some exceptions to that, but when you see, the mass layoffs at most major video game companies, the mass layoffs in tech, like to say that's, money and power, it's in the hands of a relative few. I mean, like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, yeah, the hundreds and thousands of people who work for them, not at all. I mean, there's been so many whistleblowers at Meta, and it just goes nowhere because, of course, those companies are lobbying the government. But I mean, if you even look at, Sheryl Sandberg, her life has been tragic. What's her name at Twitter? The alleged CEO of Twitter? Do you think she has power? Not at Twitter. She may be making a big fat paycheck, but money and power? Not so much. It's a big rat race. And even the creative directors of studios, they are constantly chasing funding, and you don't want to work for someone who revels in power in that job. You want it to be collaborative. And I know that games are more collaborative as a rule than other forms of media. You still get, people on power trips and people who don't work well with others. But if you're a good collaborator, it's a more useful skill in games than other forms of media that I've worked in. To do really well in radio on large scale, you have to be real good at, hostile negotiations and stabbing your colleagues in the back, figuratively. So I do it little baby radio, and, but the mental health impact in tech was very real and very specific. And another commenter asked me, where it is, you have so many spot on insights into the autistic experience, at least mine, that it kind of blows my mind a bit every time you delve into it. Super interesting to see how many autistic viewers you have as well. From looking at the comments, the large percentage of autistic clients you mentioned, definitely the most I've seen on a channel that isn't helmed by an autistic person. How did you become so well acquainted with ASD? At any rate, it's helpful and refreshing, and I'm grateful. And okay, I can't guarantee I'm not autistic. I'm just diagnosed. I was in the gifted program as a kid, and I think everyone's a little autistic, right? But I'm not diagnosed. I am neurodivergent. I have synesthesia, which is weird. The latest joy of synesthesia was we were in the grocery store, and it was this display of, I think they were cookies. They were black and boldly colored boxes, and it was up so high that it was like it was shouting at me. And I did this and actually covered my ear. And my husband said, "What?" I'm like, "Loud." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "That. It's loud." And he looked, oh, he goes, I wondered why you flinched. And then I was in Walmart the week after, exact same damn boxes, exact same, it was less because it wasn't as hot. But when visuals shout at you, it sucks. It sucks. That part is worse than the, closing your eyes and seeing sounds. That part's kind of cool. It's trippy. But when letters are the wrong color, it's this weird kind of dissonance. And so being acutely aware that I don't experience the world the way other people do, and I can't explain it because it's one of these things. I know it's not real, but a sound, a visual. See, I haven't said sound. I thought of the visual and said sound, but a visual hurting my ears. That's fucked up. And I know it's fucked up. And I know it's not normal, but it's real to me. And I spend a lot of time masking a lot of things. And then, of course, you mask PTSD all the time. And so I understand masking. I'm also a professional listener. When I did documentaries, when I do marketing, when I'm doing this content, my job is primarily, yes, it's talking. Yes. But my content wouldn't be any good if I wasn't good at listening. And hearing both the shared and the different experiences of people with autism, and understanding that it is a very, very, every person's balance of symptoms and every person's experience with the condition based on, how it was handled in childhood into adulthood, whether they were included or whether they were shunned for being different. That really affects outcomes. And because I'm so interested in the social environmental third of the biopsychosocial model of mental health, obviously autism is a big element of that. I also used to do fundraising for Epilepsy Toronto and learning about epilepsy-friendly events, seizure disorder friendly events. Also, we started doing autism-friendly events as well, meaning music volume that you don't have to shout over, right? Or at least in the room, it's not ear-piercing, but you would have to raise your voice over the music, step into the next room or the hallway to carry on a conversation, and then we'd have a room where the lights were turned out where people could decompress. And it was better that than somebody curled up in a corner with their head over their ears because it was too freaking loud. And that was... Everybody, not everybody, but so many people say to me, "You're such a nice person." No, I'm not. Nah. Ask the people that have run afoul of me. No, I'm not. What I am is I really believe in fairness. And if that's nice, awesome. But to me, it is, I know what it's like to be rejected for things that are not moral failings. And autism is not a moral failing. There are people who are autistic and also assholes. That is true of every condition under the sun. But autism itself is not a moral failing, and people should not be excluded. And I don't know. I just spent so much time in gaming and Comic-Cons and anime cons and all that stuff that autism became normal. And you see the world shift with that. Like these spaces, it's normal. That doesn't mean neurotypical people, allistic people can't navigate those spaces. It just means everybody's got to accommodate each other instead of the autistic people accommodating the allistic people primarily. And I mean, a lot of the work I do with people is about kind of managing overwhelm, managing that kind of emotional load. And that's a good skill. That's what I had to learn in trauma therapy. And because people with CPTSD and people with autism both have the whole, DBT calls it resilience, distress tolerance, and then mindfulness. And resilience and distress tolerance or emotional regulation and distress tolerance aren't the same thing. Sorry, I got that wrong. To me, it's the same. To me, resilience, I had to redefine my concept with resilience, which means it's like a stamina gauge in a game. If you're constantly running out of stamina, you can't do the cool moves and you have died. So it's you died. I always say you have died, but it's you died on From Software games. Whereas you got to manage your stamina. And it's the same thing. If you're constantly pushing yourself into overwhelm, it's not that you're not tough. It's that you're always overwhelmed. If you bring it down to a manageable level, like not having your computer, your GPU running at 100% constantly, you're going to get a lot of heat. You're going to get a lot of wear if it's always at that, as Vulkan Engine games like to do. I'm like, whoa, that's interesting. But obviously that's not optimum. So bringing it down and learning to manage your energy, that's something we have in common. And it's especially important. I do, my work is an intersection of neurodivergency and trauma because, I had to go through the memory shit firsthand. And because I've got it this little bit, I can, relate somewhat to a person with a formal diagnosis, and all the rules are the same. We just have to find a plan that works for the individual and their individual circumstances. And working with someone like me alongside a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but cutting back on the frequency. A lot of the times you can't get in more than once a month anyway. Cutting back on the frequency of those visits and, supplementing with someone like me who it's real simple. Just, it's what do they call it? Mutual aid, the autistic love language, are you hydrating? Are you sleeping enough? Did you eat? That kind of stuff. Just those little things of caring of, okay, let's go through the checklist, the 2-week checklist or the weekly checklist or whatever. And just, are you sleeping? Is this happening? How is your health? What are you feeling? Those little check-ins and giving people time to feel and process really helps with the overwhelm. This stuff works. And the problem with most mental health language that therapists must use, because they must practice what they have been licensed in, right? It is very neurotypical. And so you'll get things like reparenting the inner child. Whereas, an autistic inner child is very different. So I'm like, nah, man, it's New Game Plus. That is understood. Some people struggle with the concept of the abstract of the construct of childhood, so on and so forth. We throw that out. We use our own vocabulary. And then there's the super demonstrative, I like you things, the Gus Walls. That's my dad. That I would like certain things of the autistic experience to be more normalized because they help us all. And that's why I say I'm not nice. No, this is an optimization issue, people, right? The fact that if we become more inclusive of styles of communication that autistic people also understand, we actually become better communicators with everyone because we're not skipping steps. We're not as reliant on heuristics that may or may not be shared. And so we get better results with everyone, like stating intents, like leading with feelings, a whole bunch of stuff that I treasure the fact that I get to work with autistic people every single day because there is a real logic. It's not just vibes. And then when there is an emotion, it can be very overwhelming. It can be a little confusing, but okay, we'll work through it. You're human, right? So thank you for coming to my TED Talk on why autistic people are awesome. Let's quit while I'm ahead. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. Check out the Redbubble store. Maybe we should get some autism merchandise in there. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Until then, thanks for watching and have a great weekend.